Good morning, my brothers and sisters, and all my friends. This morning we are going to talk about part 8 of our series, India as the Leader of 21st Century. Today we are going to talk about India as the engineer, as the global engineer. We have a beautiful word which is known as Vishwakarma. And our Indian engineer must become a Vishwakarma, a global engineer. And how could we do that? I think India must take advantage of the trained manpower we have, very well trained engineers in our IITs who are the best in the world. And these engineers are working all over the globe with the most reputable and most successful companies, global companies and global corporations. We could name some, like we could call those Google or Microsoft or many other big companies. But not only the IT sector, but our civil engineers, our mechanical engineers, our electrical engineers, or our chemical engineers, they are everywhere. And they are so competent that they could create miracles. They could create the infrastructure of the heaven on earth. They are competent, and they must be allowed to exercise their competency and their intelligence. And how we could allow them to exercise that competency and that intelligence is to provide them the corporate vehicles, the corporate entities which could work internationally with many governments, many countries all over the world to create the infrastructure in those countries. There are many countries in African continent, in South America. And not only that, but even in the developed world, we could compete because we have the manpower, not only the top engineers, but we have the manpower which can give a support system. And thus manpower could be utilized to compete with the other international agencies, other companies from other countries. And our engineers, if they could create and they could build many countries in the Middle East, practically Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Oman, even Saudi Arabia, all these companies working in the Middle East, most of them took the services of Indian engineers. If Indian engineers could create even the infrastructure for Middle East countries, they could create infrastructure for any other country in the world. So what we need to do? We need to provide the facilities, the corporate vehicles, the means, the capital, and our Indian companies must be allowed to compete internationally and made them competent enough to compete in the international bidding of big projects of infrastructure, building dams, irrigation systems, electrical systems, transportations. And we could use all that expertise and the great human resources to build the infrastructure of 21st century leadership. And our engineers are ready, they are waiting for the chance. So we have to organize this sector. And the greatest part, the greatest benefit and the asset we have is the great, competent, intelligent, hardworking, and well-trained professionals, human resources. So we could create the global infrastructure of India's leadership. And wherever Indian companies go and work and create the infrastructure, they must also negotiate, not only just creating the infrastructure or building the dams or building the electrical systems or the transportation systems of the countries. They must also maintain those. They must negotiate the contracts to maintain those systems. So we could not only build, but we could keep our human resources engaged for at least 10 or 20 years. Within the span of 10 or 20 years, we should be able to keep engaged our human resources and build the infrastructure of India's leadership, global leadership. So our engineers must become the global engineers, the Vishwakarma. And when they are going to create this infrastructure of India's leadership all over the planet, believe me, we are going to create a humanity which is non-violent, which is peaceful, which is loving each other, the Vasudev Kutumbakam, the family of God. And I would like to remind my friends that there had been now a lobby of scientists who are talking about leaving the earth in 100 years. There had been many people talking, many historians, many literary giants from the West. And they used to say that India has a culture of escapist, the fatalism, because of the religion, because of believing in the fate. But my dear friends, India is on the way to build the heaven on earth. And the West is preparing to run away from earth. And the other day, the great scientist, the wheel-born scientist, he declared that mankind must look around for another planet, another place to run away from earth within 100 years. What an irony. The people who used to talk about building the heaven on earth, they are today preparing to run away to other places in the solar system or in this space. What a poverty of thought and vision. They feel so poor. because they feel that they have already exploited all the natural resources of the earth and now they want to go somewhere else. They are like space-age caterpillars. When I say caterpillar consciousness, my dear friends, my brothers and sisters, this is a stage of life story or life history of the butterfly. And when the butterfly is in the stage of caterpillar, that's the time the caterpillar knows only eating from one end and excreting from another end. That's our consumer society, my brothers and sisters. But we have the wisdom resources. We had been before like butterfly civilization. And when the caterpillar transforms itself in a chrysalis, that's the time it is stays in a cocoon, it stays in the cave meditating and reflecting back and contemplating what I have done, looking back at the mounds and mounds of the West. And then it decides that I don't want to have a life like that. I would like to be a butterfly. So the West, all those great people who claim to be so developed, the developed world, they must look at the West. They have created a continent size of the garbage floating in the Pacific. So they must contemplate in their own cave like the chrysalis and look at that garbage, the continent of garbage they have created through their consumer society and wasting the great life-sustaining resources of the earth. Then maybe the mind of the West will see the light of the region. And maybe through this contemplation and fasting, which is in Islam known as Ramjan, and in Christianity we could call it Sabbath, we need to observe the fasting from this consumer society, this consumer mentality, the caterpillar consciousness, and stop destroying the planet. If we could stop destroying the planet, believe me, the planet is a living entity. Like when the James Lovelock gave the theory of Gaia, believe me, Earth is a living organism and it will heal itself, herself. So please leave the earth to itself and observe the Sabbath and observe the fasting of a chrysalis, so that humanity could transform into the stage of butterfly, where we will be existing with the flowers, enjoying the pollens and the nectar and transferring the pollens to other flowers and pollinating and seeding the brains of the humanity with the divine attributes and divine nature, and performing the great Ashwamegh Yagya like a monarch butterfly. So India is the leader of 21st century, is the leader of 21st century to stay on earth, not to escape from earth in 100 years, but to stay firmly rooted on earth and create the heaven for one and all. We have the wisdom resources, we have the power, willpower, and we are going to do it. And we have the human resources. We have all the competency. We have all the intelligence and all the innovative intelligence. We are going to create heaven on earth, and we are not going to escape. And the people who would like to escape from earth, believe me, they are doomed. Because that's the worst of the civilization when they think about leaving the planet Earth. The God gave us the heaven on earth. We destroyed it, we made it a hell, but we could still build the heaven again on earth. And that must be our resolve. That must be our destination. That must be our goal for 21st century. To build the heaven on earth and not to run away from the earth and looking for another planet to run away and practice the escapism, which you used to call, the very developed world used to say about India, that there's escapist people, fatalist people. But we are the ones who are not escapists, we are not fatalists, we are not thinking in those terms of running away from the earth. We will stay on here and build the heaven in 21st century. And anybody who would like to run away from the earth, you are very welcome to go away. But we will stay here and we will create the heaven on earth. And that's our resolve. Thank you very much and have a very, very beautiful day, my dear friends.